G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. It's the time of the week again. It's Tuesday. It's news day. Let's take a look at what's been happening in the world of rugby. First up, huge news, breaking, world-shaking news. Rassie Erasmus' Twitter account has been hacked. And he's been posting a lot of interesting information over the weekend, including some adult content. And also there was clips of the Lions tour documentary, the Springboks documentary Two Sides, which talked about basically the Springboks, Rassie Erasmus releasing that 62-minute video about Nick Berry's performance in the first Lions tour game. So there's a lot of heart punching on Rassie Erasmus. The Springboks had to release a media announcement basically telling everyone, hey, believe it or not, Rassie Erasmus is not posting these videos, and it's a bit of a laughing matter at the moment. And as far as we know, he is still struggling to reclaim his account, so he's basically, from the news article, he's able to post content, but someone else is also able to post content, so both parties still has access to the account. And there you go. Rassie Erasmus in a bit of a Twitter turmoil. And also, probably this should have been the first most important news of the week. The talks for purchasing the All Blacks by Silver Lake from the United States has finally gone through with a vote of 89-1. Okay, 89-1 vote. So this has finally gone through. So the main kind of contention was the Players Association that sort of felt like was led by basically the captain Sam Cane. They sort of felt the All Blacks represent the New Zealand culture essentially, and you can't really sell part of the national culture. And there has been a lot of meetings, a lot of talks about trying to get the Players Association on board, and finally they kind of agreed, and this deal has been finally secured. Basically summarized, 200 million New Zealand dollars, and this is basically going to be a stake of 5.8% only. So initially this deal was talked about 10% to 15%. Now it's dumped to 5.8% because New Zealand, I think this is the right move. I thought, 15%, 10%, and it was originally, I think it was talked about, I think it was like 300 million or something. And yeah, it was just pretty much a number, it was like 300 million like US dollars or something. And it was basically like, it felt like, it was basically probably too big of a chunk for New Zealand Rugby to sell. I thought it was probably too much to sell as well. So 5.8%, much more reasonable amount. And also there's going to be a later offering to domestic investors in New Zealand. How can I get a share? Can someone please tell me how can I get a share? Because I want to buy a share of the All Blacks. Please let me know how much does it cost. If it's I wanted to own a share of the All Blacks, please let me know. Later on this will be offered to domestic shareholders, to domestic institutions in New Zealand, and basically the overall, sales of the ownership will be 8.58%, and that will be valued at $100 million as well. Basically what they've done is they've made a separate entity that's not exactly the full New Zealand Rugby. So they've made a separate entity that has basically claimed for revenue of New Zealand Rugby, and they've sold basically 5.8% of that entity to Silver Lake. So yeah, not exactly just straight up signing over the ownership of New Zealand Rugby. They've created a separate entity that gave the firm claim for their revenue. But going forward, they basically talk about a lot about developing digital technologies for rugby. They talk about try to make the team more marketable, and also they probably the main thing that New Zealand Rugby is banking on is for Silver Lake to bring in a lot of the expertise. The company has invested in a lot of other sporting brands in other parts of the world, so New Zealand Rugby really wants them to bring in a lot of that expertise to help them grow their sport. I felt like they probably could have done it without spending, selling off a portion of the team. I felt like they could just get better management. Now they're just gonna get a free ride essentially. Also, a lot of people are happy about this deal. Obviously, the domestic provisional unions are basically being told they're going to be getting handed out quite a bit of money and they'll not be left the sideline, which is why the unions basically, straight up passed the deal like last year essentially. But it was the players union that stopped the that kind of delayed the deal that was being put forward. But yeah, this currently the All Blacks a 77% winning percentage. Definitely not as successful they were a number of years ago. But this will be a lot of the cash that the All Blacks needed. We've seen a lot of the New Zealand players going overseas for sabbaticals and all that sort of stuff. And the All Blacks has been losing quite a bit of money in the recent times as well. So this will be, finally done. A few years. I've been, pretty emotional about this. I really don't want to see the All Blacks being sold. But I guess what needs to be done needs to be done. Next up, we've got some talks about, basically there was a bit of an interview between Kofi Kepu of the Tonga coach, and basically outlining the upcoming Tongan team that was announced last week, which included Israel Folau, and they were going to be competing in the Pacific Nations Cup, and later on going to try to qualify themselves still for that pool. I think it's Pool D, or maybe it was Pool B. The same pool as the Springboks. So that they're going to still have to qualify the World Cup, and basically they outline some of the what sort of expectations of the players. And one of the key discussions is obviously Israel Folau and social media. And Kepu basically came out and said they wanted to kind of put on a bit of a social media control on the players, and they have not yet to discuss the situation with Israel Folau and all the teams, all the players that's going to come through. But Kepu is basically saying, don't put us in a situation of the Wallabies again, and we're going to have to seriously look at the social media conduct of the players. Yeah. Next up, so it's quarterfinal season. The URC is heading to the semifinals semifinal season, not quarterfinal. Semifinal season for URC as well as the Super Rugby. So URC is heading into the semifinals. So this will be some good games. I'm gonna go watch this one. So on Friday, Leinster is playing the Bulls. In Dublin. I just got that bit of a rush of, that feeling of hair standing up behind your neck. I just got that a little bit here. Leinster playing the Bulls. Stormers playing Ulster on Saturday. So currently Leinster's ranked 1, Stormers ranked 2, and Ulster is number 3, Bulls is number 4. So the 4 teams will be playing on the weekend. And the Cape Town, so Stormers is probably going to be playing Leinster in the finals in Ireland. But yeah, it's going to be really, really good. Hoping for the Bulls to pull up an upset, but I think they have a few players missing for the Bulls team. And now some more news from South African rugby as well. So South Africa is pushing forward with more development with black coaches, and basically they've got the best in the world, Rassie Erasmus and Jack Ninambla, out personally coaching some of these upcoming talents for the coaching roles. I thought maybe Peter de Villiers would be a good role for this, but anyway, they basically have selected like a group of niche, I guess, upcoming potential coaches, black coaches for South Africa, and they've basically narrowed it down to 18 of them. This is some really interesting stuff. I thought, and this will basically go ahead next. This is basically the first year this program will be happening. They'll be going forward with more of this development of the coaches. That is really good. I feel like this is something that Australia should do. Just in general, more pathways for coaches to come up for Australian coaches, and have a university degree. Rugby coaching, go to University of, I don't know, Bloemfontein or something. Anyway, so in the Stormers, some bit of addition. Herschel Yangshies has been out since April due to a hamstring injury, I think it was. Hand injury, and he's back to play the semifinals this weekend. So a really, really good addition for the Stormers. And then obviously there's a lot of preparation going on around the world. We're gonna have a look at other teams as well. But the Springboks has basically, they had this thing where they've announced like maybe a couple weeks ago, where they're gonna invite players from both domestically and international South Africans to participate in like training camps. So they've got another one. They had like initial one that was like 30 something players, 35 players or 32 players, but they've invited another one of 17 players to attend another training camp on the next week. So this one only 17 players, which included 2 new players. These are the players that kind of been selected, Malcolm Marks from overseas. So these are the kind of players. I think a lot of these are due to basically players' availability, and just basically it's kind of like availability intertwined with what the players, mostly because availability and what the coaching staff wants to try out for the Springbok team. Faf de Klerk has finally confirmed his destination. He has moved out of the Sharks to go somewhere else, and that somewhere else was talked about potentially back in South Africa, but he is settled in Japan for the money. And with the Yokohama Cannon Eagles next season, this will be a pretty another huge addition to the Japanese domestic league, and it's looking quite good for Japan. And there has been some talks from Japan as well. They're preparing for the next World Cup, and they're kind of like moved out of that growth stage to more and more becoming like a stabilized like rugby nation. Just interesting fact, Japan has relegations in their top league, and Australian rugby and Super Rugby don't. Just keep that in mind next time you lose to Japan, okay? I can't wait for the All Blacks to lose to Japan. No, I'm sorry, not the All Blacks. I mean the Wallabies. Obviously, the All Blacks will never lose to Japan. The Wallabies, I can't wait for the Wallabies to lose to Japan. It's coming sooner or later. And so, Super Rugby news, obviously, the semi-finals was played on the weekend. We've got a little bit of detail on this. So, Friday night, we had a deja vu repeat of the Crusader versus the Reds in Christchurch once again. This one, the Crusaders performed a lot better. The Reds performed slightly better than last week, but much bigger performance by the Crusaders, knocking out the Reds 37-15, quite an easy win. And the Crusaders really like pummeled the Reds in the second half as well. It was a really good performance by the Crusaders. But the Crusaders did have a few issues in the game. Once again, the lineup wasn't great, and there was still quite a little bit of handling error that was kind of like unwanted. But yeah, overall, this was a pretty much a deja vu from last week affair. And then also, what was interesting going into this game was that Pablo Matera did not get a suspension from his, over the horizontal kind of lift tackle on Jordan Patea. I thought this was a really bad decision. Like, the Sam Gilbert from the Highlanders got like 3 weeks ban the week before. Pablo Matera, basically they made the exact same tackle, but I guess if you play for the Crusaders, it's kind of like playing for the All Blacks. You just get away with anything. Yeah. So he didn't get banned. He didn't get any sanctions from that tackle. He only got a yellow card as well during the game. But that was really weird. But Kepu got a 3-week suspension for a high shot, but he hasn't really got anything left in Super Rugby. But yeah, this is just really interesting. And basically, this, according to their coach, he tried to stop, and that's enough, despite the fact that he was inches away from putting Jordan Patea probably in hospital, but landing on his head. I mean, yeah, everybody shows regret when they make a mistake, but I thought he should have been especially how similar the tackles are for Gilbert. But yeah, no sanctions. That was a big thing. So the Brumbies beats the only team that managed to secure a place in the semi-finals on the weekend, beating the Hurricanes at home. This was a good performance by the Brumbies. I thought much better. I criticized the Brumbies quite a lot over the few weeks that they play too conservatively. That they almost play like, they're playing the test rugby. I guess it's probably like Dan Keller is leaving for the permanent role in the Wallabies. Maybe he's trying to, brew that strategy for the Wallabies team. But I did feel like, in Super Rugby, you're playing way too conservatively. Like every game, they try to eke out a win. But this game, they really play with a lot of guts, a lot of, a lot of pride, and really didn't they opted for the tries, went for the set piece play, and really ventured into those high risk, high reward situations a lot more than they did in the previous weeks, which was really good. There was only like one penalty kick where I thought was wrong. Even Dan Keller thought it was a wrong decision based on his reactions live on TV. But yeah, overall, that was really good. Just performance by the Brumbies. For the Hurricanes, however, the New Zealand team that I support, kind of did the opposite. Way too conservative. A lot of try to take out easy points. The coaching staff also had a bit of brain fight in the second half. Geordie Barrett was basically taken off the field for a HIA, and the coaching staff proceeded to take out basically TJ Perenara, which is their other kicking option on the field. And basically, once the two players left the field, the Brumbies were just able to dominate the kicking game. The Hurricanes was in absolute shambles without both of their, I guess, core strategic kicker on the field. And yeah, basically got dominated kicking game and allowed the Brumbies in. Basically, the Hurricanes was leading, allowing the Brumbies to claw themselves back to win the match. Really, really interesting stuff. 35 points to 25 Brumbies. Took late in the second half to finally beat the Hurricanes, put themselves ahead. For the Brumbies, though, they have a lot of players leaving, including the head coach, Dan Keller, going, like I just mentioned, going to a permanent role with the Wallabies. And the big players are leaving. Scott Seo, Faenga Tom Banks, probably the biggest one that I felt like. Faenga as well. Tom Banks, probably the biggest one. And Simone also leaving the team. So, yeah. So all of these players are going overseas. Tom Banks, a lot of these players still potentially be eligible for selection for the Wallabies. Tom Banks, definitely someone I will consider to be selected for the Wallabies. 3-player quota from overseas, but I don't see the other players any possibilities of being selected for Wallabies again. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Also, the big game of the weekend, the Blues absolutely destroyed the Highlanders on the weekend. It took the Blues 30 minutes to kick into the gear. This game, Highlanders did really, really well to disrupt the Blues. Despite I think they had a red card. Was it red or was it yellow? Early in the first half, they were managing the game, really lure the Blues into like a kicking game. And they managed quite well all the way for 30 minutes. They were leading the game 6 points to 0 for 30 minutes. And then Beauden Barrett, Ikea Ioane basically kicked themselves into gear and 35 unanswered point in about 50 minutes of game time. Yeah, that was quite brutal. There was some pretty good highlights. Beauden scored 2 tries. Absolutely just amazing form Beauden's in right now. Ikea Ioane had the worst celebration ever. Anyway, I'll probably put that on my channel later. And also there was one really bizarre moment where just before Ikea Ioane scored, he actually scored a try just before the try that he's actually scored. So there was a really bizarre TMO decision where he clearly scored a try. The ball touched the ground on the line, and for some reason the TMO said there wasn't enough evidence for a try, and just really bizarre, really, really bad TMO decision. So, but anyway, that didn't really hurt the Blues. So yeah, 35 points to 6, easy win. King Beauden steering the ship quite well. And the final game of the week, the Chiefs versus the Waratahs. So going into this game was really bizarre. The Waratahs literally talking about they aiming to win the game. This is just absolute lies. Like, it was just such a bizarre situation the Waratahs was in. They literally talked about they wanted to. The goal is to win Super Rugby this year. And they were talking about how they were peaking at the right times or whatever. And this game against the Chiefs, especially in the second half, it just looked like the team was really happy to be just being in semi-finals. And this was echoed by the coach on the sideline. So, like, literally around 60th minute in the second half, there was a sideline interview with the assistant coach from the Waratahs. And he basically talked about, yeah, we're really happy being in the quarterfinals. We did much better than last year, so we're happy with our season. So we're pretty much, whatever happens going forward, it's good enough for us. I was so disappointed, and this was literally the expectations from the coaches were so low. Like, yeah, we're good enough to be in the quarterfinals. We're happy. And this was basically reflected on the players' performance on the field. It just looked like the team wasn't really putting 100% in, to be honest. To be frank, I wasn't very happy watching this game, especially it was just in the second half. It was just, it literally showed that the team was happy to be eliminated, to be in this quarterfinals. They did better than last year, so let's pack up and go home. I was disappointed, despite the talks beforehand about trying to put a good performance. Wasn't the case. Really disappointing. And then more international news. Obviously, the July Test series was fast approaching. I'm very excited. So Michael, the man Checker, has announced his Argentinian side. Probably the biggest callback is a tight head prop, 37-year-old tight head prop, the veteran Augustin Karevi has been called back into the squad. I do feel like the Argentinian squad probably is okay in the front row. They have a few new players. Gallows coming up. It's pretty good. I think he's probably just going to be like the experience that's there to give the newer players a guide. He's probably not going to be a starting player. I don't think he will be a starting player for the Argentinian side. They have quite a few really talented front rowers coming up. So I don't think he will be starting. He'll just be there as a assistant kind of role. Not assistant, like an experienced role. So this is the team. Some key players, obviously Pablo Matera, what's his name? Santiago Carreras. Probably going to be going in as a 10, so this will be interesting to see where Checo wants to put him. But the Pablo Matera, what's his name? Montoya is still the captain. What's his name? Nicolas Sanchez is still in the team. So not sure how they're going to juggle this Sanchez Carrera situation. I do feel like Carrera's is still really far off from being like a international level 5'8", but Sanchez is getting to the point where he's on the way out. It'd be interesting to see, but Carrera also can't kick goals, so if he is playing, then they have what's his name, they'll have their fullback kicking or their winger. Can't remember his name. Boffelli, Boffelli will be doing the kicking if Santiago Carreras is going to be the number 10. So we shall see how Checa manages this in last year's I'm not gonna say 4 nations, but rugby championship. We did see that Sanchez was out due to injuries. He was put on the bench for a couple games, and Carreras was at 10, and Boffelli doing the goal kicking. But yeah, we shall see if Chex has got something up his sleeves for the Argentinian side. I'm very, very excited to see how the Argentinians going to perform this year. Obviously, Sir Eddie, the Honourable Sir Eddie, my dad, yes, he is my dad, is preparing a squad for the Australian tour. So there's another 35-man 3-day training camp coming up for England. They had one like 2 weeks ago as well. There's another one's being announced. And the big talk is obviously Sinclair being left out of the squad, but it's some people saying like, he's just temporary selection. But the real matter is he's actually out due to an injury. He's not going to be traveling to Australia, which is quite huge because Australian scrummaging is very good. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty proud of our big boys, especially if Tupou comes back. He's injured as well. If Tupou comes back with Angus Bell, it's going to be a good scrum. It's going to be so. Without Sinclair, we'll have to see how England's going to travel. If they put Bevan Rudd in there or whatever his name was, I don't know how England's going to travel without Sinclair. They did bring back Michael Vinapola last time, so maybe they'll have him in a loose head. But yeah, that tight head position is a bit of an issue for Angus Bell. Is really good at loose head, so Sir Eddie is going to have to conjure up a good tight head for Australia. But here's the training squad. We won't go too much into it. It's just this not really the confirmed team for the tour yet. But yeah, Sinclair's out. And another news, another person that's out of the Australian tour is Manu Tuilangi. He's having knee injuries quite a while now. He only played like one game, few. Did he play a single game in the Six Nations? I don't think he did. But yeah, he's been struggling with the injury for quite a while now, and he's still not good to play. He's not going to be traveling to Australia, and also the training camp also includes the 16 newcomers for England. I guess that's just what it is. Like I mentioned, you can go have a look at this list if you want to. But yeah, it is just what it is. It's just the training camp for Eddie to sort out his players. And finally, New Zealand Rugby has issued an apology to Tukura Ngata Arengamate. So basically, she sent out a tweet about her experience in the Black Ferns, and she was basically bullied by her coach. She was under a lot of emotional stress, and basically she sent out a tweet. She was not happy. She had a mental breakdown during the tour of New England and France, and the head coach Glenn Moore was allegedly bullying her. Essentially, can't remember exactly, but he was basically like body shaming her. And then there was conducted by New Zealand basically went and conducted an independent investigation, and it's found that there was some inappropriate comments being given to her, and they have issued a public apology. That's on when was it? 7th of June. That was earlier today. Anyway, that's the news today. Let me know your thoughts on any of the articles, guys. I do appreciate you being here. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support me with a bit of, buy me a coffee or something, hit the join button down below. I do have a PayPal. You can send me some money there. One of you guys sent me a coffee. I was really do appreciate it. AJ, thank you for the coffee. I do appreciate it. But thanks guys for watching. So later this week, I've got Super Rugby's semi-final preview. We're gonna have a look at the teams, and then we're gonna do the semi-finals for the Super Rugby, and I might look at the URC as well. We'll do that review or so, because otherwise we only got 2 games to talk about. But thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate you being here. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you guys later this week. Cheers.